Hey mathematics learners, welcome to Distance Learning with Lee, where I make learning mathematics super easy. On today's video tutorial, guys, we're going to be tackling question 2.2, and question 2.2 basically deals with tariff systems, in particular sanitation tariffs, or we can even say water tariffs, okay? So before we get started with today's video tutorial, guys, please make sure that you are subscribe to the channel. Please make sure that you click on that notification bell so that you get notified every single time I upload a new video tutorial, guys. And also don't forget to give this video tutorial a huge thumbs up, because that really helps the channel grow and it helps the channel to reach more learners that want to better their mathematics marks. Also, guys, if you want to support the channel, you can consider being a part of our maths gang, right? If you really appreciate the content that I'm bringing to you guys here, right, please join our membership. Okay, so without any further ado, guys, let's get started with today's video tutorial. So like I mentioned, we're still going through the grade 12 mathematical literacy November 2022, paper 1. All right. And in today's video tutorial, we're going to be looking at tariff systems, in particular your sanitation tariff, or we can even say water tariff. Okay. So let's have a look at the question. It says the sanitation tariffs for Johannesburg and Cape Town are presented in table 3. Johannesburg uses the area of a property to determine the sanitation bill. Okay, so when it comes to Johannesburg, Johannesburg basically uses what? The area of the property, okay, to determine the bill, right, for the sanitation. Okay, and it says that Cape Town uses a percentage of the total water usage. Okay, so we are told that this is the same way as they calculate the water bill. Okay, so table 3 shows the tariff of Johannesburg excluding VAT. So you know, guys, if they say excluding VAT, it means that VAT has been excluded, right? It hasn't been put in yet. And we are given also the tariffs of Cape Town. And for Cape Town, it includes VAT. Okay, so this is very important. So let's have a look at table 3. So table 3 shows the sanitation tariffs for Johannesburg and Cape Town, guys. Also here, guys, if someone is asking what the hell is a sanitation tariff, because from what we can remember from the video tutorials that I've done with you guys, we've only done water tariffs, electricity tariffs, bank tariffs, transport tariffs. So what is a sanitation tariff? Okay, so if you are lost and you're confused, okay, a sanitation tariff, guys, refers to the wastewater that is drained from a household. Okay, so this is the water that, for example, after you've washed the dishes and then you drain that water, it's that water. After you flush the toilet and you that water that drains out of the toilet, right? That is what we are talking about when we're talking about sanitation. Okay, so we basically calculating how much you pay, okay, for basically draining out water, okay, in your household. So that is basically what we're doing in this case, but it still falls under the umbrella of a water tariff, okay, because they did say that, okay, to determine the sanitation bill, okay, it's the same way as you calculate the water bill. So the same way in which you calculate our water tariffs is the same way that we're going to calculate our sanitation bill. Okay, so let's go back to what the table is giving to us here. We are told that Johannesburg sanitation tariff, okay, and we know that for the Johannesburg's sanitation tariffs, it's your VAT is excluded. Okay, so please remember this. Okay, and remember, we are told that when calculating the tariff or the bill for the sanitation in Johannesburg, you basically use the area of a property. Okay, how big the property is helps you determine how much you'll have to pay towards your sanitation bill. Okay, then we are told here if your property is up to and including 300 meters squared, you pay 228 rand and 06 cents. If your property is larger then 300 meters squared to, so if your property is actually between 300 meters squared to 1,000 meters squared, you pay a tariff bill or uh, a sanitation tariff of 443 Rand and 96 cents. If your household is larger than 1,000 meters, or if it's between 1,000 meters squared to 2,000 meters squared, you pay that amount. And if your house is then larger than, greater than, okay, if the size of your property is bigger than 2,000 meters squared, then you basically pay 967 Rand and 71 cents. Okay, very important when we're calculating the sanitation bill. For if you live in Johannesburg, you use the area of the property. How big the property is helps you determine the sanitation bill. Okay, so I use bill and tariffs. I interchange between the word tariff and bill because they mean the same thing. Okay, when we're calculating tariffs, we're just calculating an amount that you pay for making use of sanitation, water, electricity, transport, bank. Okay, so that is why I'm basically using the word interchangeably. Okay, then let's have a look at Cape Town. Okay, we are told that for Cape Town, the sanitation tariff, we already know the sanitation tariff is basically calculated by the percentage of the water that is basically used in the household. Okay, so in this case, we are told that the sanitation tariff for Cape Town, right, include that. Okay, so in this case, that is included. That is already inside these amounts. Okay, so let's see. If you use between 0 to 4.2 kiloliters of water, you pay a tariff of 16 Rand and 03 cents per kiloliter that you use. Okay, if you use between 4.2 kiloliters to 7.35 kiloliters, you pay a tariff of 22 Rand and 02 cents per kiloliter, and so on and so forth. Okay, remember, when we basically checking or want to determine the usage, it's very important that we remember that. Okay, if I had to basically call this my block 1, block 2, block 3, and block 4, right, it's very important that we think of it this way. What is the maximum kiloliters that we can basically use in block 1? The maximum is just 4.2 kiloliters. How do you get that? 4.2 minus the 0. Okay. For block 2, what is the maximum kiloliters that you can use in this block? You take that 7.35 kiloliters and you minus 4.2, okay? And you'll get that it's actually 3.15 kiloliters, okay? Maximum that you can use in that block. In block 3, what is the maximum amount of kiloliters that you can use in that block? You take 24.5 kiloliters minus 7.35 kiloliters, okay, and you will get 17.15 kiloliters. And in the last block, what is the maximum amount of kiloliters of sanitation water? Okay, you can use, it's going to be 35 kiloliters minus 24.5 kiloliters, and that is 10.5. So all that we're doing at this point is just analyzing the information that is given to us and just already, right, making notes of what we already know. If we're already given the water or the usage in each of these blocks. Okay, we already know that in the first block you can use 4.2 maximum kiloliters. Okay, you can still use less, but the maximum that you can use is 4.2. Okay, and so on and so forth. And then we are given the tariffs per kiloliter that you use in each of these blocks. I'm going to call them blocks. Okay, and then we are told that, okay, this amount basically represents an increase from the previous amount. So previously, okay, the amount of the tariff per kiloliter was what? Okay, we can just say that it would be 16.03 minus 0.66. Previously, the amount was therefore 15 Rand and 37 cents per kiloliter that you'd have to pay for sanitation usage in the first block. Okay, so that is basically what it's telling us. They're not telling us that we have to basically include the increase. They're just telling us that this amount basically represents an increase from previous amounts of 0.66 rands. Okay, all right. So I think we're more than ready to now have a look at the questions. I hope that you guys have attempted the questions on your own. You've already downloaded the past paper. Please note the link to the past paper as well as the addendum is down in the description box. Okay, so let's have a look at the questions that are given to us. It says, use the information above to answer the questions that follow. Question 2.2.1, write down to the nearest 10 cents and excluding VAT the cost for sanitation in Johannesburg if the property is 175 meters squared. Okay, so we're going to be focusing on what? Johannesburg, right? And we know that we are given how we want to basically determine how much would the cost of sanitation be if your property is 175 meters squared. Okay, so we're going to be basically looking at the different blocks that are given to us here. I'm just going to name them so that I can just basically make reference to them easily, right? So I can say that this is my first block, this is my second, third, fourth block. Okay, so what is happening in the first block? Okay, the first block is if your property has an area of up to and including 300 meters squared. Okay, so if the area of your property is from 0 to 300 meters squared, then the tariff that you have to pay, okay, is 228 rand and 06 cents. Okay, so that's basically it. Okay, if you're the area of the property that you stay in Johannesburg is between 0 to 300 meters squared, then you have to pay 228 rand and 06 cents. Okay, so that is the cost of sanitation that you'd have to pay. Okay, so that's the first thing that we're gonna write. Okay, so the cost of sanitation, okay, in the first block is 228 rand and 06 cents. However, remember the question says that we need to basically write the answer to the nearest what? 10 cents. Okay, so we can't just leave our answer as 228 rand and 06 cents. We need to round it off to the nearest 10 cents. Okay, so then because we've got a 6 there, that tells us that we basically need to round up. Therefore our answer is going to be 228 rand and 10 cents. Okay, so that will be the cost of sanitation if you live in a property that is 175 meters squared in Johannesburg. Question 2.2, calculate the cost for 4.1 kiloliter sanitation in Cape Town before the increase. Okay, so now we want to basically determine how much, okay, will we pay towards our sanitation bill if you use 4.1 kiloliters, okay, in Cape Town. Okay, so we can see that 4.1 kiloliters actually falls within the first block, because in the first block, right, the first block is if you use between 0 to 4.2 kiloliters of sanitation. Okay, so we already know that it falls within the first block. Okay, but then, and we already know that the tariff, okay, for if you use water, okay, between 0 to 4.2 kiloliters or drainage between 0 to 4.2 kiloliters is equal to 16 rand and 03 cents per kiloliter. Okay, so before we even answer this question, we basically know that the tariffs that are represented here are the tariffs after, right, the increase that basically took place. Okay, the 16 rand and 03 cents per kiloliter that is represented here is the price after the increase has basically taken place. Okay, so in this case, because they want what the price is before the increase, that means that we need to basically take the 16 rand and 03 cents and minus that 0.66 cents. Okay, so in this case, because we want to calculate the cost for 4.1 kiloliters of sanitation, right, we already know that 4.1 kiloliters of sanitation falls within the first block. Okay, because in the first block the first block is for using between 0 to 4.2 kiloliters of sanitation. Okay, so we already know that we are in the first block. Okay, and we want what the price, okay, will be before the increase. Okay, so to get what the price will be before the increase, okay, we will just merely take that 16 rand and 03 cents, and you're gonna minus what? That 0.66 cents, because we want to find out what was the price before the increase. Okay, so in this case, if you punch this into your calculator, you'll find that the price before the increase was actually equal to 15 rand and 37 cents. Okay, so we've basically found that before the increase, okay, the tariff would be 15 rand and 37 cents, okay, for basically making use of 4.1 kiloliters of sanitation. Okay, the question asks us to basically determine what the cost for 4.1 kiloliters of sanitation. We've just basically found what the tariff was. Okay, we still need to find the cost for basically making use of 4.1 kiloliters. Okay, so all that we need to do now is we need to basically take what the water that was used, or the sanitation, okay, of 4.1 kiloliters. There's the 4.1 kiloliters because you've only used 4.1 kiloliters, and you multiply that by the rands per kiloliter that you use. And we have found that before the increase, the amount that you'd pay was 15.37 per kiloliter. Remember? Okay, that's actually the units that we're supposed to use there. Okay, per kiloliter. Okay, so you're gonna multiply that by 15 rand point 37, okay, per kiloliter. Okay, and if you punch that into your calculator, 4.1 times 15 rand 0.37, that actually gives you what's the cost of sanitation. Okay, the kiloliters cancel. Okay, so 4.1 times 15.37 is actually equal to 63 rand 0.017. That is approximately equal to 63 rand 0.02 cents. Okay, that is the cost of sanitation before the increase was implemented for basically making use of 4.1 kiloliters of sanitation. Next question 2.2.3. Mr. Jones lives in Johannesburg, and Mr. Brown, or Miss Brown actually, lives in Cape Town. Okay, they both own a property with an area of 550 meters squared, and each was built for 22 kiloliters of sanitation. Okay, so we told about Mr. Jones on one hand, and we also told about Miss Brown on the other hand, right? And we are told that Mr. Jones lives in Johannesburg and Miss Brown stays in Cape Town. Okay, and we are told that both of them, right, have a property of a size of 550 meters squared, and both of them used sanitation, right, or water waste of 22 kiloliters. Okay, so now we need to use the table above to determine the difference in the cost of sanitation for the two properties. Okay, how much would a person that stays in Johannesburg pay? Okay, how much would a person that stays in Cape Town pay? And this question wants us to basically understand that, firstly, okay, when you stay in Johannesburg, you get billed based on the area or the size of your property. When you stay in Cape Town, you get billed based on the percentage of water that you've basically used. Okay, so we need to take that into consideration when basically calculating these or making these two calculations. Another thing that's also important is that with one of the calculations, VAT is excluded. In the other one, VAT is included, right? So for us to be able to really compare accurately, okay, they both need to either be VAT excluded, okay, or they both need to be VAT included, okay, for us to really have a proper comparison going on. Okay, so now the first thing we need to do now, right, is then calculate what would be, okay, the bill that Mr. Jones would pay, okay, based on the fact that they stay in Johannesburg, and based on the fact that we're going to be using the area to calculate that, okay, and then we're going to basically have to change whatever value that we get or amount that we get into an amount including VAT, so that we will be able to adequately, properly compare it with the Cape Town amount. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, so like I mentioned, we're going to be using the area to help us calculate the tariff for sanitation for Mr. Jones, and we're going to be using what the sanitation or the percentage of the water used, okay, for Miss Brown to basically help us calculate her sanitation bill. Okay, so let's see. So he basically stays in a property that is 550 meters squared. Okay, so because it stays in a property that is 550 meters squared, we already know that we're going to be looking at the second block. Okay, because on the second block we know that we're dealing with property that is between 300 meters squared to 1,000 meters squared. Okay, and if you stay in a property that has an area between this range, okay, you pay 443 rand and 96 cents. Okay, and it's very important that we note that this amount what excludes our VAT. Okay, so Mr. Jones sanitation bill will basically be excluding VAT, right? Okay, will be 443 rand and 96 cents. Okay, and because we want to compare this amount, right, with Miss Brown's tariff bill, right, and Miss Brown's tariff bill, we're going to basically calculate that using our Cape Town table, and that table has amounts that includes VAT. That basically means that we also now need to calculate the amount that includes VAT, okay, for Mr. Jones' sanitation bill, okay? So how do we calculate an amount including VAT, okay? Guys, you need to remember this table that I always emphasize, okay? Or this method that I always emphasize in calculating VAT, okay? You always need to think, what is your VAT amount? Okay, your VAT amount is 15%. Okay, what is your amount excluding VAT? Okay, your amount that excludes VAT, okay, constitutes just 100%. Okay, because VAT has not been included, it's not put into that amount, so it's just 100%. It's clean like that, it's just 100%. Okay, and then the amount including VAT, okay, would be then 100% plus 15%, which is 115%. Okay, so in this case, we want to basically calculate. Okay, I'm just going to remove Miss Brown's column here. I'll do it at the bottom so that we don't become confused and it doesn't become untidy here. Okay, so now since we basically want to calculate Mr. Jones' sanitation bill, including VAT, what are we going to do, right? We are going to basically use this table that I've just drawn now to help us convert from your amount excluding VAT to your amount including VAT. Okay, so what do we do? Okay, your sanitation bill now including VAT will be that 443 rand point 96 multiplied by what you want. You want what? Your amount including VAT. So it's going to be multiplied by 115% divided by what you have. And already this amount of 443 rand point 96 cents represents an amount that is excluding VAT. Okay, so we have an amount excluding VAT, which is 100%. Okay, so if you punch this into your calculator, I've already mentioned this in the previous video tutorials, that this percentage and that percentage already cancel, so you don't have to put it into your calculator when you're doing your calculations. Okay, so if you take 443.96 and you multiply that by 115 divided by 100, okay, you will get that, okay, Mr. Jones' sanitation bill, including VAT, is actually equal to 510 rand and 55 cents, right? So it's just approximately equal to 510.55 cents. Okay, that is Mr. Jones' sanitation bill, okay, in Joburg. Okay, so now let's basically now calculate Miss Brown's sanitation bill. Okay, so we are told that Miss Brown stays in Cape Town. We are told that she basically made use of 22 kiloliters of your water waste. Okay, so now we want to basically calculate the sanitation bill, okay, based on that information that is given to us. Okay, so if she has basically used 22 kiloliters, okay, of sanitation, how do we go about calculating the sanitation bill, okay, that she has to pay? Okay, so here, guys, that is why this part is very important. Okay, I mentioned that in the first block, the maximum amount of kiloliters that you can use is 4.2. Second block, 3.15 kiloliters. Third block, 17.15 kiloliters. And fourth block is 10.5 kiloliters. So we now have to basically add up all the kiloliters that we need from all these different blocks up until we get to 22 kiloliters of water. Okay, so if we take the first block, we would have just used 4.2 kiloliters, yeah? Plus the second block, how many kiloliters? So if you take 4.2 plus the 3.15, right? How many kiloliters now have we used, okay? Or have we accounted for? It's 7.35 kiloliters. But we don't need 7.35. We need 22.22 kiloliters. So we still need to go. In the third block, if you just take that 7.35 kiloliters and you just add it with 17.15, do we get to 22 kiloliters? No, we don't. You will get to 24.5 kiloliters, all right? So here we need to basically figure out if already in these first two blocks, we've already used 7.35 kiloliters. How many more kiloliters do we now need for us to get to 22 kiloliters? All right, you just need 22 minus 7.35 kiloliters. Okay, so that means that in this third block, okay, we will only just take 14.65 kiloliters. Okay, and you will check now. Okay, if you take 4.2 plus 3.15 plus 14.65, that basically accounts for 22 kiloliters of sanitation used. Okay, so now we're gonna basically write all of that down, okay, and basically calculate the sanitation tariff. Okay, so we already know that in the first block, okay, we just use 4.25 kiloliters, 4.2 kiloliters. Okay, so we're gonna do that. Okay, in the first block we just use 4.2 kiloliters. Okay, and to get the tariff there, you need to multiply it by what? 16.03, okay, rands per kiloliter, because you get charged 16 rand 0.03 cents for every kiloliter that you use. So you're going to multiply it by 16 rand and 03 per kiloliter. Okay, right? In block 2, okay, what is the maximum amount of kiloliters that we use here? It's just 3.15 kiloliters. Okay, so you're going to take that 3.15 kiloliters and you multiply it by the tariff in that block. And the tariff in that block is 22 rand and 02 cents per kiloliter. Okay, 22 rand 0.02 per kiloliter. Okay, and in the third block, remember I already asked you guys, if you add 4.2 plus 3.15, you'll only just get 7.35. You want to get to 22. Okay, that is why now in this third block, we're not going to use the whole 17.15 kiloliters. However, we're just going to use 14.65. Why? Because for us to move from 7.35 to 22 kiloliters, we just need 14.65. How did I get that 14.65 kiloliters? You take 22 kiloliters, you minus 7.35 kiloliters to determine what's remaining for us to use in this block, right? And it's 14.65, okay? And you multiply that by the tariff, okay, for that block, which is 30 rand and 92 cents per kiloliter. Okay, and then all that we're going to do now, we're going to punch all these values into our calculator and get the prices for each block, Okay, so the price for block 1 is 67 Rand point 326 cents. That is just approximately 67 Rand point 33 cents. Okay, in the second block, it's going to be 69 Rand point 363 cents, which is approximately equal to 69 Rand point 36 cents. And in the last block, okay, it's 452 Rand and 978 cents, which is approximately equal to 453.98. Okay, so we've basically calculated the total costs, okay, for all these blocks. And what's left for us to do now is then add them up together to get what the total bill Miss Brown is going to pay for her sanitation usage. Okay, so you know what I'm going to do, just to ensure that we maintain accuracy, right? I'm just going to use the values that haven't been rounded off, okay? Because we've got all bits and pieces. So remember when I spoke about bits and pieces, right? It's essential that we just round off your final amount so that you don't make any mistakes, right? Okay, and just for accuracy, so I'm just going to keep these values that I haven't rounded off, right, to help me in my calculation, and then I'm just going to round off the final amount. Okay, so it's going to be 67.326 plus 69.363 plus 452.978. Okay, if you punch it into your calculator, you'll get, okay, 589 Rand and 667 cents, which is 589.67 cents. Okay, that is Miss Brown's tariff bill, okay, that she would basically, or sanitation bill that she would have to pay, including that. Okay, so now, what was the question asking from us? Okay, we need to determine the difference in the cost of sanitation for the two properties. Okay, what we basically realized in this case is that Mr. Jones basically pays 510 Rand and 55 cents, okay, towards his sanitation bill in Johannesburg. However, Ms. Brown pays 589 Rand and 67 cents towards her sanitation bill in Cape Town. Okay, and the difference between the two, okay, this question tells you exactly what you need to do. When they want for the difference, they just want you to subtract these two amounts. So the difference in the sanitation bill is equal to the highest amount, which is 589 Rand point 67 cents, minus Mr. Jones' sanitation bill of 510.55. Okay, if you punch it into the calculator, you'll get that, okay, people in Cape Town, okay, that basically have an area of property that is 550 meters squared and basically use water drainage of 22 kiloliters, pay 79 Rand and 12 cents more than people in Johannesburg would. Okay, that is basically what that means there. All right, so we've calculated that there. Okay, and let's have a look at question 2.2.4. It says, explain how the tariff system used in Johannesburg is beneficial to homeowners in terms of the water usage. Okay, we already saw that a person now that's staying in the same size property and that uses the same water drainage in Johannesburg pays less than a person would in Cape Town. So what would be beneficial about how the tariff system is constructed for people that stay in Johannesburg? Okay, what we see that, okay, if you stay in Johannesburg, no matter how much water drainage you use, okay, if you stay in a property that is between 0 to 300 meters squared, you will just pay 228.06 cents. Okay, you can use 1,000 kiloliters of water. Just because you stay in a small property, you will just pay 228.06 cents. Okay, so that's what's beneficial about this tariff system. Okay, no matter how much water you use, just because you stay, for example, in like a smaller property, you'll just still pay less. Okay, so the water usage or the tariff system is just calculated based on the size of the property. Okay, so the bigger your property, the more you pay, and the smaller your property, the less you pay. Okay, so we can basically write it down that how does the tariff system used in Johannesburg benefit homeowners, right? It benefits homeowners with small property, okay, who pay less. So if you have a small property, you just pay less. And that's just how you would benefit if you are a homeowner staying in Johannesburg, okay? Another reason that you can write, even if maybe like I mentioned, even if you use a lot of water, okay, or the usage varies, okay, the amount that you will pay towards your sanitation bill just depends on, it will actually remain the same because it just depends on the size of your property. So irrespective of how much you use, you'll still just pay the same amount. Because I mean, the size of your property is not going to change unless you, yeah, it's not going to change. It stays the same. It's fixed, right? So in that case, you'll just pay the same amount every month, okay, irrespective of how much water you use or drain in your house. Okay, so you can just write any of those reasons. Okay, but I'm going to write this one. Okay, so it benefits homeowners with smaller properties because they will pay less for their sanitation bill. Okay, so that is it, guys, for today's video tutorial. Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed this video tutorial. Also, tell me what you think about having this black background. Do you guys like it? You're not vibing with it? Just tell me what you think about it so that I know if I should continue with it or not. Okay, okay. And that is it for today's video tutorial, guys. I hope you guys really enjoyed it, and I hope I managed to clarify everything that might have confused you in this video tutorial. I think what could have been a problem here is this additional column that talks about an increase from a previous I think some learners there might think that they need to add that amount from this amount, okay, and use that to do their calculations. I think that's where there might be a bit of confusion, okay? So, but other than that, this question was nice. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope that I'm going to see you guys in my next video tutorial, okay? We're going to be tackling question 3.1 as well as question 3.2. That is it, guys, and I'll see you guys on my next upload, Distance Learning with Lee, where I make learning mathematics super easy. Bye, guys.